hello everyone. Thank you so much for finding some time to join us today. My name is Selma Avdic with the American Marketing Association, and I will be your moderator for today's webcast, which is in partnership with Mintent and is titled Use Content to Drive a Successful Post-Sale Customer Experience. Okay, so before we get started, I do want to cover some important housekeeping items. So our session will be recorded today and available later on this afternoon on ama.org. We also invite you all to join the conversation on Twitter, and you can do so by referencing #Mintent when tweeting about our webcast. And if you have any questions, whether they're technical or content related, please feel free to ask them at any time. You can use our chat area that's located to the left of your screen. All right, so with that, I'm pleased to introduce our speakers for today. So we have Peg Miller with us, and she's the co-founder of B2B Marketing Academy. And a little bit about Peg. So in her current role, she is slated to advise high-growth companies on their marketing and content strategies to achieve revenue results, drawing upon her 20-plus years of marketing and business experience at organizations. And we also have Matt Dion with us, who's the CEO of Mintent. And Matt has a career spanning 25-plus years and is considered a consummate thought leader in the areas of digital marketing, agile marketing, content marketing, customer-driven experiences, brand building, and business development. So with that, I am pleased to turn it over to Matt to get us started.
Great, thanks Selma, and thank you everyone for joining us today. If you haven't been on a Mintent webinar before, one of the reasons that Mintent exists, one of our purposes is to make software for content marketers to help them with their jobs. So we have a platform that allows marketers to collaborate, plan, produce, and publish and measure their content. But at the end of the day, it's the task of producing this great content falls on you and your team. And so we also like to bring top content marketing experts onto these webinars to provide helpful information and inspiration to marketers in all the areas of content marketing that we work in. So today, I'm super excited to have Peg with us to address a topic that I see is growing in importance every day. And this is really using content after the sale to drive great customer experience. We have another big audience today, so it seems like we've found another topic that's important to a lot of people. And really, for good reason. I'm talking to marketers all the time, and like me, one of the issues that I see we're all losing sleep over these days is the rising cost of customer acquisition. In our business, in the SaaS software business, we've seen our customer acquisition costs across the board, in all our like companies, has risen by 62% in the last 5 years. And it looks like that's just going to keep going. And, in all these conversations that I have, there's no doubt that our jobs as marketers is getting tougher. The ability to influence our customers is getting more difficult. The customer acquisition, it's taking longer, costing more. So, of course, we're going to continue to have to get better at that and fight those battles. But one of the best ways to counteract this trend in rising customer acquisition cost is to focus on the post-sale journey, creating a better experience so that your customers stay with you longer and hopefully over time provide more revenues to balance that out. So this is the first webinar that we're doing on this topic, and part of the reason I'm so excited is that we are actually working on this internally here at Mintent. It's a big initiative for us, and so Peg, I'm going to be taking a lot of notes today. If we look at the first slide before I turn it over to Peg, we can see, as marketers, we're very comfortable with the top of the funnel or on here, the left side of the slide. Traditionally, marketers were in charge of generating interest and leads and then maybe throwing that over the fence to sales to close it, and then they would throw it over the fence to support. And that model's changing, and it's not as linear, and we're seeing that marketing needs to actually be involved in that whole thing. And so certainly over the last few years, we've seen marketers be involved in all the way through the funnel to close, and some marketing teams even own revenue objectives, which is great. But now we're seeing it shift even further to the right, and marketing needing to be involved even after the customer buys. And we're seeing that the importance of the experience is becoming more and more important. We're seeing studies that show that customer experience is going to overtake price and product features and that kind of thing. And so really the experience is the brand, and as we all know, content's a big part of that. And so it's important that we start to retool ourselves to spend our time, effort, and money on that part of the journey as well. So that's why today we have the perfect person to talk to us about this. Peg, as Selma said, she's been a marketing practitioner for many years. I've seen her speak a number of times at Content Marketing World and ICC. She's a great presenter. She's been on the consulting side, on the vendor side, and in industry. She's led marketing teams. She's led customer service teams. She's worked at Compost, which is a company similar to Mintent. It's a content marketing platform. She has been identified by Top Rank as one of the top 50 female influencers in content marketing and one of the top 100 global MarTech influencers. So very qualified to speak on today's topic, and I love hearing you speak, Peg. So with that, I'm going to turn it over, and I'll be taking lots of notes.
All right. Well, thanks, Matt, and welcome, everyone. Appreciate you taking time out of your day today. And as Matt mentioned, it's kind of a sweet spot for me. A place that I really care about is kind of the intersection of marketing and success and working with pre-sale and that whole customer experience. So we're going to focus today on what I call the forgotten funnel, kind of the bottom of the funnel, that post-sale side of our customer experience, because we work very hard to bring customers in. We're spending a lot of money, energy there. As Matt said, we've got our demand gen funnels locked and loaded. But I'm really here to talk about, why we should focus after the sale and how we can focus there. So hopefully you'll walk away with some very practical tips that you can put to use inside of your organization, because after all, as Matt mentioned, I've worked on the vendor side, and I speak about this and I blog about it, but I'm also a practitioner. I'm a content strategist for a software company by day, and so my team is a team of content strategists and content marketers along with demand gen and community, and we kind of look at the whole funnel and how we're integrating content into that. So, and we work very closely, and I would recommend you do the same with all of our sort of peer groups inside the organization, whether that's the success and service teams or the sales team. And, if you're a product and services organization, really working together to bring those different teams and departments and subject matter experts together so that you've got a bigger army, because we all know we never seem to have enough resources inside of our own team area, so we have to kind of tin cup and go get other people working for us throughout the organization and even throughout our industry. So we're going to talk about some of those things today. I like to level set and talk about, some of you may have even participated in this survey. It's run by the Content Marketing Institute every year. And one of the things that they measure is just the maturity level of organizations that are doing content marketing. And I seem to be surprised when these results come out, and I kind of wait with bated breath till I can start talking about them. We kind of get an early release on it. But it's interesting to me that we don't see more people on the left side of this chart, meaning moving into a more mature and sophisticated level of content marketing. And part of it because it's just hard. It's hard to align resources, and we know what we're supposed to do, but getting that done with budget constraints or organizational constraints or whatever the constraints that we face in the real world, I think that's part of it. But I think another part of this equation is that we're a little hard on ourselves. Like, I find that the most advanced organizations are actually, striving to be better. They have that young mental age and really trying to be better than they are and learning and developing. So I chalk it up to that too. But I think it's interesting to review these results. And I think one of the reasons that we're maybe not as effective as we want to be or think that we can be is because we can't articulate a concrete business reason why we're doing our content marketing efforts and how we're tying that back to the business. So that's one of the things we'll talk about today, is tying the post-sale journey back to real revenue results inside of your organization. Another reason that I think we're maybe hard on ourselves, or we're not operating at the level of maturity model that we think that we're capable of, is that often we've forgotten this very basic thing, which is documenting our strategy. And I would venture to say that most of us don't have a post-sale content strategy that we've documented. So I would put that down on your list as a thing to do coming out of this, this webinar. I'm going to give you some tips and ideas about how you can, we could have a whole other session on your entire content strategy, but I really want us to focus on the post-sale side of the house today. Another area that I think is interesting to look at, and this is a very busy chart, but there's really a few key takeaways from this. When you look at the most successful versus the least successful content marketers, there's really only a few key areas that contribute to those success factors. It is really understanding how you're going to define success. And by that, I also mean tying it back to the overall business goals inside of the organization. Getting the entire organization to commit and understand what you're doing from a content strategy and content marketing standpoint. And again, that little nagging, let's just make sure we document it. I mean, we talk about it and we execute, but have we brought that back into a documented strategy? We've written down, we've taken the time to answer tough questions that are beyond marketing. They're business questions, they're success questions, they're sales questions. And we get that full organizational buy-in. And to me, those are honestly the key success factors that will turn you into a high-performing content marketer versus kind of just going through the motions. And as I mentioned, a lot of us tend to focus our content marketing efforts high in the funnel. Matt talked about it too. We're very good at branding. We're very good at lead gen and demand generation. But not a lot of us are spending a high amount of energy at customer retention and driving loyalty after the sale. And, as Matt led with, it's a very fruitful ROI for an organization to spend money retaining customers, especially if you're in a SaaS model business. But if you're in any business, you're constantly having to spend all of your energy acquiring customers, but you haven't plugged the holes in the dike, so to speak, at the bottom of your funnel or after the sale. You're just kind of on the hamster treadmill at that point. So that's where we're going to focus our energy today. Another great reason, why am I such an evangelist on this about focusing on our customer portion of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, it's because they can help us sell. I mean, we're seeing stats as high as 90% of people making B2B buying decisions are depending on their peers to help them make that decision. I just did a focus group of financial executives, and that was absolutely the number one thing. They're like, I do not have time to evaluate products. I call up my friend who I know and trust, and I ask for their advice, because in this world of, we're all getting hit with so many messages, they really do depend on peers for that information. I spent 15 years working in technology marketing in the tech media space. Number one source for advice and information amongst IT professionals and developers was their peers. So it doesn't matter what industry you're in. If there's any kind of a professional working in an environment who continues to elevate their professional skills, they are absolutely depending on their peers for that information. And we're also seeing very high stats that it's not only peer recommendations, but it's flat out referral business where a peer may say, hey, you should talk to my friend so-and-so at XYZ organization. So we cannot underestimate the power of that bottom sector of our funnel. Oops, I went a little fast there. I like to say this about the customer journey. We talk about a customer journey. I mean, we call it a journey for a reason because it is not a linear, neat, and tidy path. it used to be funnels were kind of a vertical, the triangle shape that I'm showing here was kind of the tried and true way of thinking about our buying and sales funnels. And, Forrester here on the left shows it as almost like a sousaphone or, some kind of Dr. Seuss instrument there where there's just no linear path. People are finding, consuming information on their terms, on their timeline. And, we sometimes get brought into the conversation and they're 80% through the buying cycle. And then, we're converting them and then we kind of forget about them and oh, good, we can relax. We got the customer. But I'm here to say, it's really important to think of your funnel almost as the bow tie, and Matt kind of showed it too, where you spend time on customer acquisition, you spend time on how you hand off to sales, but you also think very clearly about how you're handing off to the success and service and post-sale side of the house. So now I'd like to get into a few just kind of exercises and tools that I recommend people use and do inside of your organization to help make this happen. Because, oftentimes I'll set the table for this and we'll talk about, gosh, sounds great, Ted, but how do I do that inside of my organization? So building a customer experience map is a great way for you to kind of get team alignment and buy-in. And I would recommend that you do this as maybe a lunch and learn or a couple series where you bring multiple teams together. So I would recommend at least marketing and sales and success, and depending on your organization, you may call those different, departments different things, but you want people who touch customers and prospects throughout the funnel and care about that journey. And it's most important that you answer these questions out to the left that I've highlighted. You want to be thinking from your customer's point of view, not yours. I mean, we tend to, as organizations, we love to talk about our products and our services and how great we are, and we go off on these tangents about features and benefits and why we're great for you, but really take this time as you're building your experience map to think about, okay, get inside the head of my prospective customer or my current customer. What are they trying to do? Who owns that relationship inside the organization? And of course, we want to sort of categorize this into stages, like are they being acquired as a customer? Are they experiencing a sales process? Or today, like I said, we really want to think about, okay, now they've become a customer. They've purchased us. They've made, for whatever reason, that we've done a great job of convincing them that we're a worthwhile company to do business with. And now it's up to us to live out that promise. And so the other thing to think about at this stage is maybe the people that you are selling to in the buying process are not the people that you're selling to in the customer process. I mean, that commonly happens in software and other B2B buying decisions where, you'll go through the process and the manager or the department head loves it because we have all this new access and reporting tools or whatever. And then all of a sudden we have to convince this team of people who have to use the system what's the value in it for them. And it might mean more work for them in the beginning. It might mean a change in process of how they do work. So we're really dependent on them to help make sure that we adopt and have success. But gosh, our sales team didn't even know who these people were throughout the process. So we may have to go out and find out a whole new set of people that we're targeting when they become a customer versus a prospect. So being aware of all those nuances is really important for us to work through as an organization. And again, I'm a huge fan of marketing leading this experience, but marketing can't own this entire experience. You're leading other teams through this experience and helping, drive all the way up to your CEO, but all across departments. How are we treating our customers, and who's doing what with them? How are we talking to them? What are we saying? And then, of course, how is marketing supporting that? Another really just practical thing that I recommend people do is we've heard about content audits and inventories for years, and of course, I recommend that you do that on a very regular basis, and there are tools that can help you do that, or you can just do it old-fashioned manual. I'm not really here to profess one way or the other. I just encourage you to make sure you go through the exercise, but then take it to the next level, which is use that inventory as you're planning out campaigns and journeys and nurture programs and, on your current customers, what are we going to say to them when, at what stage in their onboarding process, and literally map what you have and what you need and who's going to do it by when. And I recommend, like my team, we do these content journeys for any new campaign, any product launch, any persona, any industry that we're trying to reach, any, the post-sale customer journey, anything that you're thinking about, you want to map your content specifically to make sure you have good coverage at all kind of the buying stages in that particular stage in the customer journey. So I highly recommend you go through this exercise. It's just a great planning tool. So another thing that I love to think about, I've always just been one of those people that, like, I want everybody working for me, not reporting to me, but going around the organization and getting fans and having them help you with your cause. I think that is one of the most important ways that marketers today can not only, it's very effective for gaining notoriety for your content marketing efforts throughout the organization, but it just makes your life easier, if nothing else, to have other departments feeding you content, helping drive content strategy, helping give you advice, and helping with your thought process, and making sure that we're all aligned. Plus, the irony of it, it's like you can create this army of people that are helping with your initiative even though they don't sit inside your organization, because it's not only good for the marketing team and for your customers, but it's good for all these other departments. They have all this sort of pent-up knowledge that they're just dying to share. You talk to product and engineering, or you talk to strategic services, or even the sales team. Like, that is where you're going to get your best advice on, okay, what is resonating with customers. One of the things that I love to do is after a customer comes on board, I like to talk to their success manager or the support team, anyone who's handling those day-to-day requests, and say, all right, where do they get hung up? What are the issues? So not only could you help improve the product experience by understanding that, but maybe there's just some easy FAQ content that we should be producing to help answer those top 5 questions. I encourage that organizations, literally analyze your support tickets, group them into categories, and then try to fix those through your knowledge base or through, customer success tips, or arm your support and success team with those common knowledge points so that they can answer those questions, and then build a top 10 tip sheet that helps, your customers. Here's what we see most people encounter in their first 90 days of being our customer, and we want to help you answer these questions. There's all kinds of creative ways that you can both get ideas from other people in the organization, but also use them to amplify your content, and then enable them to share your content. So it's a very self-fulfilling feedback cycle that we're creating here. And meanwhile, you're quietly building buy-in throughout the organization for that business case of, oh, what does content marketing do again? Like, oh, they make cute little blogs or whatever. It actually, elevates you inside the organization because you're solving real customer and business problems and helping drive that throughout multiple teams. I encourage you to go through this. This is another exercise. I've kind of created your homework for the next quarter or 6 months, however you want to tackle it. Do this exercise with your team and determine, okay, inside and outside of our organization, who do we get content from? Who could create content for us? We don't have to create it all in the marketing team, and content marketers don't have to do it all. There's great stuff sitting everywhere inside of an organization. It maybe just needs to be, spun a little bit differently so that it works for the post-sale activity. Or, I'm finding that my strategic services team, they are so smart and full of knowledge about our particular industry and software tool. They're just, they're handing blogs left and right our way, which are feeding into ebook ideas and And we're using that content both high in the funnel, at TOFU, so the top of the funnel where we're actually bringing people in, but we're also proving that that is a very important part of, okay, now that we've got a new customer, they're very interested in diving much deeper into our product and service. And in fact, a little tip for you, that's the only point in the funnel, I would say, other than when they're actually looking hard at in data sheets and looking at true buying guides and that kind of information. But that is the point in the funnel after somebody has been a customer where they actually want you to give them more content about your product and your services and you. So I'm a big preacher on you got to be customer focused, but at this point what your customer wants is to learn more about you. Because think about it, they've already made their buying decision, they've chosen you, you're the winner. Now teach them how to be great using your tool, using your system, using your product, using your services, and teach them how to do their job. I mean, the adage about helping someone do their job holds true no matter where you are in the funnel. I love to share a great story about that. I was onboarding Cisco with a content marketing platform, and so they had made the buying decision, and it was my success team. We were in there, working with them about, okay, now how do we start working together? And the project champion held up an ebook that we had written probably 2 years before that. And it basically talked about how to structure your team to be an optimal content marketing team. And she held it up and she's like, this is why we chose you, because you helped me solve a real world problem. And she convinced her CMO, and we went through the entire buying process. I was like, that to me is content utopia, because you've actually gone out, you've helped somebody solve a problem, and they want to do business with you because of that. But by the same token, that was super helpful content to her in the buying decision. It was also super helpful in the onboarding process. So we work so hard to think about, what's that great kind of ancillary content that's going to draw people in. We also need to think about, that content makes sense here after they've chosen us as a customer too. So we just want to make sure that we're thinking about the entire funnel and who are the people that are helping us build that content, come up with those ideas, amplify, and execute against this. So I like to go through this exercise where we think about anybody who's touching content or a customer probably has some kind of role in either helping create, amplify, distribute content. And in some cases, like I put down, there's some areas that can be blockers. We have to wait on approvals, and if we're in a field where we have to be highly compliant, we have higher restrictions than others. So it's important to understand that too, because you think about your process and your timing of how you're executing. So this is a good exercise if you want to take that back to your team. The good news is, maybe I make this seem like it's harder than than it is. It's honestly just putting some of your energy and redirecting it toward the post-sale side. You've got great content. Like I said, we're producing things left and right inside of organizations. And so I would just encourage you, don't stop at the point of sale for your funnel. Think about, okay, this survey that we produced, or this research report, or this ebook, or whatever it is, how can that be used by our current customers too? Maybe I'm sure they're having the same problems, because it's not like they magically just flip the switch, become our customer, and all their marketing problems go away, or all their, whatever industry that they're working in. So think about extending the life of your content into the post-sale side of the house. Another good just discipline area, and again, I'm just kind of covering off on some things that baseline, you should be doing these. I don't think these are new ideas, but maybe just refresh or tune them up, or be like, oh, okay, I guess I haven't done that. Maybe I should revisit. Creating a checklist. We've got new people coming into organizations. People switch departments. We have different content creators, external and outside of our department. So we want to make sure that we lay down things like, what is our voice and tone? We want to have basic standards of quality that we're ensuring everybody's following. And I know this is kind of simple, stupid, but it's not really, because we overlook it often to think about the actual process. And I don't mean replicate poor processes. I just mean how do things get done? Who does what when and why? Sometimes it's the why. I was doing this exercise with my team right now, and we discovered that we have about 6 different ways of building landing pages with various tools and various people touching those. So for instance, go through this for all of your content types and make sure you know who builds what, when, how, and just get basic checklists built so that if somebody came in new to your organization, you could explain it to them. And I call this kind of laying down the tracks. So it's the history of what you've done, but it's also the future of where you're going. If you're trying to run your team at scale, it's pretty important to have the ability to just make sure that we're doing things consistently, that we're making the best use of our limited resources, and that everybody's in agreement about how it's done. I talked about a content audit. I guess this is a commercial for my for my content marketing world session that I'm going to do, but I'm going to talk about gems that we can find in our content audits. I mean, it's a whole session on, okay, I've done my audit, my inventory. Now what do I do with it? What am I looking for? So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that today, but I hope we're all doing audits and inventories. I also hope we're managing our strategy and our teams and our contribution and our input and output with a content calendar. Again, it matters less to me which tool you use, and most to me that you have a visual display of what you're doing when, to which markets and audiences, and you understand who's responsible for getting that out the door, how does it roll up into your overall themes and strategies, and are we executing against our goals? So again, I'm sure the Mintent team could talk to you about awesome ways to execute this inside of their tool. Regardless of what you use, I'm most concerned about how you're managing your content and editorial calendar on a regular basis and how you keep track of that. All right, so now for the nitty-gritty. So as I talk about this topic, people say, okay, Peg, I kind of get what you mean, but I'm not really sure how to make this happen inside of my organization. So these are some idea triggers for you to think about. And what I like, if I were to group these for you, here's how you need to think about your post-sale content strategy. So we're going to go through kind of the what. So what is your theme? How are you going to help them do your job? And as I said, it's really okay at this point in the sale, if ever there's a time to talk about your product and your service, it's now, because they've already made their buying decision. Now you're just reselling, reinforcing them, making sure you're living up to the promise that they thought was a great thing as they came through your funnel. So don't be shy about that. It's funny, we just did a survey at Exactly with our customers. We have an advocacy program. And we said, what kind of information do you want from us? And we thought it would be sort of like light, and they kind of like to win prizes or the gamification side of it. But interestingly enough, the number one thing that they wanted was, I want to know how to use the product better. Give me specific products and tips and information from real people like me. So I guess it shouldn't be surprising, but I think we sometimes underestimate that, and we're a little shy, we don't want to talk to our customers too much. We might inundate them or, wear them out or whatever. That's absolutely not the case. This is the time where, you want to help them get the most out of what you have sold them. So don't be shy about being okay sharing things like FAQs and product releases and how it's going to impact them. And I would encourage you, don't think about just the kind of tried and true. Of course, you should do a customer newsletter and an email announcement, but maybe you have your product owner or whoever, your designer or whoever built and had a big impact on this product release or this launch or whatever you're trying to communicate to your customers. Have them say, here's why we did it, and this is our motivation behind it, and here's the cool things. There's nothing better than that kind of one-to-one feeling of conversation, yes, we listened to you, and here's why we did this. So get creative in how you're actually outputting that information. So we also want to think about the how behind this. I mean, there are definite methods of distribution that we have the luxury of having access to when it comes to a customer. You know, when we're in the acquisition side, we're a lot of times having to go outside of ourselves and buy space or rent that or, you know, kind of earn it through other terms or an inbound funnel. But the beautiful thing when they're a customer is that you have their information and you also have forums where you can talk with them. For instance, you know, what are you doing if you're a software company inside of your application to notify them? Wherever a customer is interacting with you, your website, your portal, you know, give them a special area where they can find access to different, better people, where they can, you know, access your knowledge base of information. Like, make them feel special. You should probably have a different sort of web experience for them than you do for just somebody coming in through your funnel, that your general.com that doesn't know you. So treat them like royalty, and they will also give you feedback through these loops. So it's a bi-directional thought process here. It's not just about you shoving out your information. It's about you opening up that feedback loop beyond the traditional means. Another thing that I encourage people to think about under the how of this is, you know, we're often doing nurtures and trigger funnels through our customer acquisition stages, but are we doing that for our customers? Are we thinking through their onboarding process and how we're marketing with and to them through that process? We often will use a customer success tool to maybe rank the customer as a red or a green, or, you know, they might even have a maturity model that shows like their new versus mature customer. So we do that, but are we tying it back to actual campaigns and content activities and nurturing them through their own process? And the other thing is to think closely about the why. Why do we, you know, again, why are we focusing on the customer at this point in the process? What problems are they trying to solve today? I mean, maybe, again, like I said, maybe it's the same problem they were trying to solve when they were a prospect, but also maybe they have new problems now that they've had this new awareness and access to our tool or product or service, that we can help them. Oh, have you thought about this? Now you've crossed off this milestone. It's time to be thinking here. So we can help guide our customers through their, you know, their days, but also the nice thing about it is we come right along with them in their maturity and growth. The other thing that I like to think about here is, how are we going to measure what we're doing on the post-sale side? It's, again, like, this is the one of the most beautiful things is actually measuring this is probably easier than, I don't want to say easier because it still requires some work on our parts, but there's certainly the metrics there to show value. And again, I bring this back, you know, one of my first slides where we talked about our content marketers showing business value to organizations, and 60% of us, I think, said we're not, or 30% said we are, or something like that. So the point is, the majority of us need to do a better job of showing throughout the organization how we're having an impact. So a couple of things that I like people to think about when you're doing your post-sale strategy is think about measurement metrics. So a couple that I like to focus on: customer retention, and that is, you know, how many customers do you retain year over year? Engagement, how are customers engaging with your content? Do we, you know, have an increase in people who are consuming our webinars, or gosh, all of a sudden our knowledge base takes off, or wow, our customers really love this tip of the day that we've started sending out on a regular basis. You can also look at revenue measurements like upsell and cross-sell. Again, this takes a little bit of, you need to line up with your success or account management team wherever your upsell and cross-sell opportunities sit inside of an organization. And if they sit nowhere, this is an opportunity for you to drive that mindset inside of an organization, because sometimes companies don't really have an upsell cross-sell strategy. We bring in the initial customer and we're not thinking about how they might want to buy this, that, or the other that makes sense for them. And, that's a whole opportunity for marketing to help drive that process. Think about things like your customer as a person versus a business. So for instance, they go to another organization and they take you with them. So you think about that second sale opportunity. If you've done a great job turning them into an advocate in their current job, they can't live without you the next job they get. And if you make them really successful, they're probably going to get promoted and snatched up by another organization. So that's kind of a common thing that I encourage people to think about. Another area that we measure very heavily at Exactly, and I like to get people thinking about it, is driving referrals, case studies, reviews, references, all that post-sale advocacy side of the house. And also think about how are you incenting not just your customers to participate in that, but are you incenting your own teams? So for instance, are you spiffing the salesperson or the success person or the support person to ask for that referral, ask for that case study, ask for that customer, hey, you had a great experience. Would you like to tell other people about it? We'll put you into our referral program. So again, I've found that when you think about driving the behavior from customers, you can also incent your own organization to get on board with you. Another area that I'm going to talk about later is literally creating a customer score, but I'm going to leave that for a later slide as we move through. I like organizations to think about your review strategy, and this applies in this case to software, but it can apply really, it doesn't really matter your product and service. You want people to say good things about you. Again, I'll go back to the point that most people start their buying process with some kind of a referral, whether it's B2C or B2B. And so thinking through how are you managing those outlets, whether it's, Amazon or any of the software type review sites or what have you, whatever applies to your industry, think through that's a pivotal part of your post-sale experience. Now I'd like to just kind of start winding down with a few examples that you can take home and use. So here's an example from one of my former companies where we had this was our funnel, and as you can see, we spent as much time after the sale winning the customer over and thinking through, what content were we giving to them on what day mark, and what was the kind of content, as we did high in the funnel. And in fact, we probably spent more energy bottom of the funnel than we did top of the funnel just because of our business models. Here's an example from a company, Wyden. They're a digital asset management software company. And I'm sure they're fine with you lifting these templates and applying them to your own organization. But they kind of, it's just a nice little guideline to think about, okay, what content I'm producing at what different stage in the buying process. And they actually map it, as you can see, they call it rebuy because they know that you're selling to customers even after they're customers. And you're thinking about not only that acquisition side, but what are we doing post-sale to get them to use our software, use our products, use our services, and get to the point where it's mission critical, they can't live without us, and they love us so much that they want to start telling their friends and colleagues and other people that they know and share it out broadly. As I mentioned, I would encourage you to develop a customer scorecard, and this is a little bit different than I think what some companies do. We score our leads. We actually put our customers into milestones typically and say, like I was saying, they're red or green, or they're a warm or hot customer, or they're at risk, or we have these different measurements. But this is really a scorecard that we developed based on the post-sale engagement that we're having with the customer. So we have an advocacy program called the Friends of Exactly, it's FOX for short. That's why you have the little Fox icon here. And we're using a tool, it happens to be something called Intuitive, that we use to kind of gamify and manage this. You can use whatever tool you want. Again, I'm not here to promote a tool, but the point is then we developed our own scorecard, meaning the ultimate for us is to be like this guy Phil, who I call him our number one fan, but like we all know him by name, one of our customers, because he's done everything. He's done testimonials for us. He comes to our customer summits and shares that information, and like he's the utopia. That's, if we had more customers like that, our life would be pretty easy. So so what we try to do is we sort of rank the level of engagement that these customers are doing with us through our Friends of Exactly program, and we group them into different levels of customers and kind of creating a loyalty chain, if you will. And then we measure ourselves, are we getting more customers to engage with us, more companies to engage with us, and when they do, are they doing more and meaningful activities with us? So I would encourage you to develop your own customer scorecard. I will tell you that we built this scorecard on our own from data that we had pulled out from interactions with them. So you can do it even with whatever tool you have today. It just takes a little bit of strategy and thought process behind it. So as we're kind of closing down, and we'll start to open it up for questions, I just want to remind you, what are some of the basics that you want to revisit with your post-sale strategy? This is kind of the checklist that that I'd like you to keep in mind and go through. So we want to look at building an experience map. We want to make sure we're doing audits and managing our business through content calendars. We're managing campaigns and activities, and especially like do a content journey map for your post-sale customer experience. If nothing else, just do that, because if you can't get all these other things done on the list, that will help you guide how you're going to talk to customers after they become customers. Think about how you can reuse content from high in the funnel and repurpose it low in the funnel. Excuse me. Always remember to work with other departments inside the organization to not only give you content ideas, but remember, they're also going to help you get buy-in to your overall strategy that you're doing. The more you help them do their job, like think of them as an internal customer, if you're helping them be better at their job, they're going to help you be better at your job. So that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Make sure you've got access to any surveys that are going on around the company, and also talk to real customers, if nothing else. I can't believe I'm just mentioning that now, but that's one of the most important things. Is you can do all the percent of work you want. You can look at surveys and kind of hide behind the data, but there's nothing that replaces listening to a support call, listening to a service call, listening to a sales call, going to an event, talking to real customers, or if you have the ability to meet with them at your business, or listen, learn, and observe what real customers care about. And again, just make sure that you're having a cross-departmental initiative with this. I think that's one of the most important. It's a challenge, but it's also the big gain opportunity that you get. When you start to get into post-sale, you're inevitably touching into other departments, and maybe you're bringing in ideas that marketing hasn't traditionally led inside of an organization. So you want to get people on your team and helping build that strategy and execute that strategy, and you'll find much quicker, much bigger success in that area. So with that, I'm actually through with the presentation portion of today's webinar, and I'd love to hear, it looks like we have questions rolling in. So Matt and I would love to entertain your questions.
Yeah, for sure. That was great, Peg. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much to both of you. We do have fantastic questions, so I'll go ahead and get us started. We have one from Megan, and the question is, if I'm in marketing and customer success is an entirely different team, how do I bridge the gap between the two departments?
Great question, and one that I'm super fond of, because as I've mentioned, I've worked in and led teams both in success and in marketing. So I think it's a unique situation where marketing can actually come in and guide the process, but make the success team feel it's their own, if you know what I mean there. So you're helping guide and drive the process, but you're enabling, you're arming them, you're supporting them to help drive their initiatives. So when they see it not as a like two departments butting heads, but more, hey, success, we know you know best what our customers need and what you're facing every day. How can I help arm your team with the information that you need to make your life easier, to scale out the common questions that you're getting? If you think of it as, kind of you're guiding and supporting at the same time, which is sort of a service leader mindset, if you will, I think you'll find that they're actually super receptive because, again, you're kind of treating them as an internal customer and thinking about what do they need, how can I make their job better, how can I enable them to look better with our customers, and all of a sudden they become your biggest fan and proponent, not only from an execution standpoint, but helping you build that strategy.
All right, great. Thank you so much for that response, Peg. Next question for you two. So we have Ben here, and he's wondering how he can incorporate customer marketing into his marketing goals. So if he's not measured on customer success metrics, how can he ever make this a priority?
Mm-hmm. I think, my recommendation there is to, it may be more of an investment process for you, Ben, to think about this inside of your organization. You're going to have to probably do some education to help the teams and help the top leader of the organization understand how marketing can and should be involved in customer marketing. And you know what? If there's somebody that actually owns customer marketing in your organization, awesome. That is great. And so then the role is that you work closely with them to make sure that you're feeding things that you're doing throughout the funnel that help their strategy. Again, like you're their number one partner inside of the organization to help make them successful. You help guide and support that. Again, the beautiful thing is then you have somebody to execute it and be tasked with it. I would have joint goals. I mean, just like marketing and sales have joint goals, I would recommend that marketing and customer marketing or marketing and success have joint goals together too. The real beauty is when you have organizations who have, like Matt talked about here at Mintent, he's got obviously a customer retention goal that the entire organization is aligned around. So everybody falls in line around that. When it's important to the organization, we find that the teams kind of line around that well too. So hopefully that helps you.
Yeah, and I would add to that. I mean, ideally, it's top down from management and marketing is got accountability for things like churn or retention or whatnot. But I agree it's hard if the company doesn't measure marketing on that, because as we know, it's not like we have spare capacity to just work on fun things. So yeah. I agree with what Peg said, is try and get the data that shows the that ROI of your efforts on overall business impact. And of course, there's on the cost side of getting the customers, and then on the other side of increasing average order values or reducing churn, so you increase the lifetime value. But I think if you can, as much data as you can, drive it back into what is the business's overall model, to get to profitability, and then try and convince somebody up in the organization that marketing really should be doing this and therefore measured on it. Because I agree. I mean, things that get measured and people are held accountable to are more likely to get done. So probably spend some time maybe lobbying or working on getting the perspective to change on what marketing should be doing.
All right. Well, thank you to both of you for those responses. I think we have time for just one more question. And then we have Clara here who states, you've provided lots of ideas, but which one would you say I should tackle first to have the biggest impact right out of the gate?
Okay. So I think that I would recommend you start making the content maps a part of how you do business. And I realize this is a little tactical, so I'm skipping through the strategy stuff because I'm going to assume that you're going to do that no matter what. And kind of the buy-in and all of that is crossed. So I'm going to say kind of the magic thing that has turn the tide for my team, and what I see most impactful throughout the organization is building content maps, and that is just to make sure we're doing what we said we were going to do and gut checking ourselves in a very systemized way of saying, here's what we have, here's what we need, here's what we're working on. I think sometimes we operate blind and we think we're covering our strategy very well, and the reality is until we do that content map, we don't know for sure that we are. So that's my number one. Easy thing to do, and you can implement it tomorrow.
All right, wonderful. Well, as I mentioned, we have run out of time for today, but I do, encourage our audience, if we didn't get to your question or if you want to connect with Matt and Peg offline, I've left their contact information here, and we will also send follow-up communication with these webcast details. So please look out for that. But I do want to say thank you so much to Matt and Peg. Thank you for your time, for sharing your insights with us. A special thank you to Mintend for your partnership, as well as to ReadyTalk for providing us with our web conferencing platform for today's webcast. And last but not least, thank you so much to our audience. Thank you for your time, your great participation, all of these fantastic questions. And we will have a short survey at the end of our webcast. So if you can kindly provide your feedback, let us know what you thought about today's webcast. Also, what other topics you would like to see covered in future webcasts, we would genuinely appreciate it. So thank you so much again, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your week. Take care.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.